The wide area network is rapidly becoming the worldwide area network. And that expanding reach of organizations means new web security challenges, thanks to emerging and ubiquitous threats delivered through mobile end-user devices and cloud applications. In this program, Gartner analyst Lawrence Orenz addresses the challenges that organizations face in the era of smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices. More importantly, he'll offer his recommendations for how cloud web security services and appliances can help meet these web security challenges in a world where end users are always connected and the enterprise knows no boundaries. Lawrence is a research director at Gartner, focusing on the integration of security within internal networks, with an emphasis on network access control, voice over IP, and content filtering. Lawrence, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, can you give us an overview of web security technology, especially how it differs from firewall, email, and other security technologies, and why it's increasingly important for today's business networks?
Sure. Web security is about protecting users from the internet. The internet has become the primary attack vector for malware, and when we talk about web security, the goal is to protect users' endpoints so they don't get compromised by malware coming in through the internet. Now, in order to do this, we need three categories of defenses. We need malware protection, we need URL filtering, and we need application control. So let's take a closer look at each one of these categories. The first, malware protection, this is the ability to detect if a website is hosting malware. Also, we need to be able to detect if an endpoint in our organization has already been compromised with malware. We also need URL filtering. This has been around for years, of course. It's the ability to block inappropriate sites like pornography, gambling, and hate sites. And also, we've extended URL filtering now to block sites that are known to spread malware or sites that have a bad reputation score. And then finally, there's application control. This is the ability to block applications such as peer-to-peer file sharing applications that you don't want on your network, and also the ability to control applications via policy. So when you take all three of these categories, malware protection, URL filtering, application control, this is the market category that we call Secure Web Gateway. Now you asked, how does web security differ from firewalls? And there is some overlap between firewalls and secure web gateways. We see this at the low end of the market, the SMB section of the market, where unified threat management UTM solutions are used for firewalling and secure web gateway functions. And at the higher end of the market, we see some overlap between next-generation firewalls and secure web gateways, particularly relating to application control. But Gartner's position is that secure web gateways and next-generation firewalls won't converge before 2015.
What in today's current threat landscape is making businesses change how they must think about web security?
The issue is that the malware problem is becoming worse. Malware is becoming more sophisticated. We're seeing more variations of malware, which makes it harder to detect, and it's more damaging. We're seeing more targeted attacks where the bad guys are going after sensitive corporate information and intellectual property. So you asked, how must businesses think about web security? And we're encouraging them to focus on two areas. We're saying protect your mobile employees, the employees that aren't always on the corporate network, and also protect smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices. All these devices now have the potential to hold sensitive corporate information, and they too must be protected.
What challenges do businesses face with the growth of mobile and handheld devices, especially personal devices that are not strictly governed by business policies?
The growth of mobile devices is a huge challenge that all organizations are dealing with. Everyone in IT was caught off guard by the runaway success of the iPad and the overall popularity of Android devices and iPhones. Let me back that up with statistics from a recent Gartner survey. Last year, we surveyed CIOs at several of our CIO conferences, and we asked them several questions. Here I'm going to show you two of the questions. The first one being, in 2 years' time, approximately what percentage of the mobile devices, laptops, tablets, and cell phones used in your organization will be owned by employees? And the answers that we got back were, here this is from US CIOs, 38%. that by 2013, 38% of the mobile devices in their organization will be owned by employees. The answer we got back from our European CIOs was 20%. Now, there are several reasons for this discrepancy: European data privacy regulations, cultural issues, but the key point here is whether it's 20%, 38%, or somewhere in between, this is a trend that we need to pay attention to. The second question from this survey that I'd like to highlight is, do you believe that the security currently applied to mobile devices, such as smartphones and tablets, used in your organization is adequate and would satisfy an auditor? Here, the results between the US and Europe were more consistent. In the US and Europe, 27% and 28% believe that mobile security would satisfy an auditor, but 41% and 42% believed that it would not. So, to summarize, the growth in mobile devices is a challenge, and the ability to secure these mobile devices is also a challenge. Why is it a challenge? Well, the traditional endpoint protection model that we have today, where we secure laptops and desktops with client software on the endpoint that does antivirus, anti-spyware scanning, and other security functions, it doesn't translate well into securing mobile devices. And that's a key reason why security services in the cloud is becoming so important.
Now, Lawrence, we hear a lot about appliance and cloud web security deployment models. How can these be combined to help businesses protect workers moving between internal and external networks?
Sure, that's a key issue, workers moving between internal and external networks. Let's take a look at the traditional approach with on-premise solutions. Here we have the appliance model, or in some cases a software appliance. And what this does, it only protects the devices that are on the network, either the campus LAN or connected via a VPN. And that's why cloud services are becoming so important, as we just mentioned, because they are really the best way to protect the devices that are mobile and not connected to the corporate network. So cloud services can be a good complement to an existing on-premise strategy, or cloud services could be a replacement for an on-premise strategy. Now, you asked about combining appliances on-premise and cloud-based security models, and that's what we call hybrid, the hybrid approach. Now, where does hybrid make sense? Well, if your company already has an appliance on-premise, then you're a good candidate for a hybrid type of solution. The on-premise solution can provide caching and other bandwidth efficiency benefits. The on-premise solution can act as a handoff to other security appliances, like maybe a DLP scanner, for example. And the on-premise solution can do a good job of keeping your logs on-premise and not in the cloud, which is a concern of many of our clients. Now, the cloud piece can complement that setup by protecting your mobile workers. Or a lot of our clients that have expanded internationally, they're choosing to protect these additional sites by the cloud, which saves them the headache of shipping boxes, paying tariffs, etc. So that's the approach that they're using. Now, with a hybrid approach overall, the industry really has a lot of work to do to deliver a true hybrid experience in areas like policy management, where you want to have maybe the same policies or even different policies, whether you're on net or off net. This is something that needs work. The area of unified reporting and the overall bigger picture of single pane of glass where everything is managed through one console. Again, overall, the industry has a lot of work to do in this area. Now, we haven't seen much adoption at Gartner of the hybrid model to date. What we've seen is that companies that want to go to the cloud, for the most part, they've jumped in with both feet. They've gone all cloud. We've seen companies that are resistant to the cloud or maybe slower to adopt cloud-based services. They're the ones that have stayed with their on-premise solutions. So the key point here is that the hybrid model does make sense for some organizations, and we think that we will see greater adoption of hybrid as more vendors offer hybrid solutions with unified management and reporting.
Lawrence, what best practices do you recommend for deploying web security when, let's face it, end users are always connected with few or even no boundaries between business and personal use?
We recommend focusing on 3 areas: malware protection, mobility, and devices. With malware protection, We already spoke about how the attacks are getting more sophisticated, more damaging, and therefore, when organizations are looking at secure web gateways, the number one priority needs to be malware protection. For mobility, we talked about how the devices are oftentimes off the corporate network, and for many organizations, this means introducing some form of cloud-based security protection into your overall security portfolio. Finally, the devices, tablets, smartphones. For many organizations, this is a bring your own device, BYOD type of environment, and since these are personally owned devices, then the security team is going to need to work with the employees to put some type of security control on the personally owned device so that the web traffic can first be directed to the security service up in the cloud before it goes out to the broader internet. In all three of these areas, malware, mobility, and devices, we're dealing with a rapidly changing environment, and most organizations are still reacting to these drivers. My goal in this session is to raise awareness of these issues and to give you the information that you need so that you can plan ahead and ask the right questions of your vendors.
Lawrence, thank you very much. Lawrence Ohrens is a research director at Gartner. And to find out more about web security and cloud services, go to www.bluecoat.com. Thank you.
Gartner is an impartial, independent analyst of the information technology industry. The information presented here should not be construed as a Gartner endorsement of any enterprise's products or services.